A follow-on vid from my British Army versus American Doctrine video. What can we say about Vietnam? Well, we can say the fixation on a defensive strategy in Vietnam was a major problem, because the fixation on South Vietnam was the major problem in that defensive strategy, because it negated an offensive strategy that would be an invasion of North Vietnam. I would have utilised the fact that Vietnam was had a long coast and is a narrow country. The Americans could have made amphibious landings in North Vietnam and captured it. The problem was not understood was that where the Americans were fighting a nationalist and communist insurgency, not an internationalist communist insurgency. If you had a democratic Vietnam, then much of Ho Chi Minh's support would have withered. In the Vietnam War, the US should have been the victors as they won most of the battles, but they did not link those battles together to form an overall strategy for victory. This is what Patton did in World War II. He did link his battles together for a strategic victory over the Germans, although the Germans had arguably better troops and equipment despite having no air superiority after D-Day. Now, that was a response to Pyman's comment. But where is the parallel and where is the problem in history with Vietnam and Pakistan? Here we see the same problem again, is that the Binladens control Pakistan. They control the ISI, and while Pakistan is in chaos, in floods, there should certainly have been a move by the West to make some sort of humanitarian invasion. We should have invaded Pakistan and Saudi Arabia 9 years ago, but we didn't. We ignored the problem. We made a fantasy of the problem and tried to ignore it. Instead, we are now fought for 9 years. The British are now leaving Sangin. The Americans are now surging in with over twice as many troops, 20,000 troops in fact. But will they be any more successful than the British? The British strategy has usually worked, and in Vietnam the Australians adopted the British strategy of Fabian incrementalism, which made a wall of non-economic and non-political connections around the insurgency, making therefore a shell around the insurgency which caused it to wither from within and contract from without. This was a major step forward in the war in Vietnam, as far as the Australians were concerned, whereas the Americans had personal vendetta and revenge, which didn't do them much favours because it didn't win them hearts and minds. They didn't stay in the territory, yet they seemed to win the majority of the major battles. Where the Vietnamese could be drawn out, they could be destroyed, just like the Taliban. Where they can be drawn out, they can be destroyed. The amount of bombs dropped on Afghanistan shows the fact that the Binladens have lost over 52,000 operatives, and hundreds of thousands of Taliban have been killed, as well as Al-Qaeda operatives in Afghanistan. Shows that they are losing. But the Bin Ladens still have trillions of dollars in oil and construction money and in their banking in their banks, which they control. And they also have hundreds of thousands of people working for them, which is, as I said in my video Bin Laden's Evil Bastards Part 4, I said that it will take hundreds of years or 100 years to defeat these people and put them where they belong, 6 feet under. But we should invade Saudi Arabia and we should invade Pakistan while we have the strength, and the European Union will probably eventually put more troops on the ground than it already has. You have to remember that Germany has the second largest European contingent after Great Britain. But will America have to fight on its own? We don't know. As it did in Vietnam, maybe it has learned, and it is learning still how to beat these people. General Petraeus has adopted British doctrine, and has been moving forward on the subject of creating a link between hearts and minds. But perhaps it would have been better to adopt the Kitchener strategy in the Boer War of now where we must be ruthless and we must start putting people in concentration camps. It's not death camps, but concentration camps to control the population. There's many different ways to fight a war, but what is the best way? Please send me in your comments and let me know your opinion. Thank you for listening.